What? We're gonna close this door up. And I have sinus issues, so you're gonna hear me clear out my throat a lot. I apologize well in advance. All right, and let's get out of my email because it's telling all my business.
Okay, there you go.
All right, you guys got it?
Yep.
All right. Ta-da! Welcome to Introduction to Bartending. I'm Champagne. I am the owner of Champagne Premier Events, as it says here. Champagne Premier Events is a mobile bartending business. We started in 2020 during the pandemic, which is probably the weirdest time to start a business, but we've been around, so we've been in business for 3 years in September. We do all kinds of events, so home events, so private parties, we do weddings, we do engagements, whatever you need a bartender for or event staffing, that's what we do. So one of the things I do is I meet people, we train, we bartend, and I realize there's a lot of people out there who's really good with customers and they want to get into bartending, but they don't know how. So I wanted to come up with like a small introductory course just for you to see what happens, for us to talk about what happens, to see if it's something that you're really interested in. One of the things that I find so sad is when someone gets into bartending because they're like, I'm gonna make all this money, I'm gonna do great, it's easy money, and it is. If you like customers, if you like being in chaos, if you like fastness, if you like making drinks, if you're creative, those are great things of a bartender. If you don't like any of those things, and you definitely don't like people, you're not gonna like bartending. So I wanted to come with something basic, get your mind going, and if it's something that you're more interested in, we have other avenues for you to get deeper into it. There are bartending schools here in Columbus, and they're great. My only thing is they created this curriculum that talks more about the 1980s and early 1990s, which a lot has changed since then. We're doing a lot of different things in the bars. People are changing what bartending looks like. The rules that were hard and fast in the 1980s are not hard and fast now. And the thing about being a bartender, you always have to be able to pivot to whatever new thing is happening. You have to. So, today we're going to talk about bartending history. I feel like it's interesting to be able to talk about that. I think, and you're going to hear me say so many different things I think makes a good bartender. But one of the things I think that makes a good bartender is the ability to conversate with your customers about a variety of different things. You never know who's coming in there. And bartending history is one of those things where it's kind of interesting, especially some of the weird tidbits. We're going to talk about the bartending tools. You'll see some here. We're going to pass them around. You guys can touch them. These are things that I used to use, but now I just keep them as relics. We're going to talk about your different types of alcohol. You don't know how many people I meet, and they're like, can I get a Tito's and vodka? Here's the gag. It's the same thing, right? There is no Tito's and vodka. I want to save you that hassle of going into a bar and starting, and they're like, you're done. You can't work here. Because bartenders can be rude. Some are very nice. Some are very rude. Next, breaking into the bar scene. This is the hardest for some people because depending on where you're trying to go into the bar scene, it might be tougher for you to get in there based on the type of experience that you have. Sometimes it's easy. Right now it's bartenders field. Bartenders are needed everywhere. People are having a hard time keeping a hold of bartenders, reliable, good bartenders. So if you're a good, reliable bartender who wants to learn your craft, there is money to be made. And then we're going to look at some basic cocktails. So I totally forgot to fill this up with water, but I can't have alcohol for real in here. So we're just going to talk about it, and then we'll do a follow-up, like an intermediary class where we do put your things on, hands on. All right, any questions so far? Awesome. So the history of bartending. I get this often. Where did bartending originate? Where did it come from? Answer, no one knows. It happens everywhere. You have millions of people on this earth already, and everyone started bartending in their own little form, shape or form. So China actually has one of the oldest places to have alcohol. And they have these clay jugs, and they're around the Jinhao River. I maybe pronounced that so wrong, but I'll spell it out for you guys later. And in these bottles, they did a test, and they saw that there was fermentation inside these bottles. The fermentation leads you to believe that this is alcohol because in order for alcohol to happen, it has to be fermented. So this is one of the earliest signs of alcohol. The clay pots have pores in them and they were able to absorb them, which allowed them to do testing many centuries later. Another place you have the Sumerians and the Egyptians. They were fond of wines and the alcohols. They also had the jugs. That's how they know, this is a wine jug. This is what's used for. Liquor, which is a little bit earlier or a little bit younger than wine, because wine came back to biblical days. If you're a Bible reader, they talk about how Jesus turned water into wine. Liquor came a little bit later, and I don't see anything about Jesus taking water and changing it into liquor. So I don't know that it's Christian, but people loved it. Liquor was created as a way to treat illnesses. So if you had a cold, if you had the bubonic plague, if you had your arm cut off, people served liquor. You have places like Russia where vodka came from. You have places like more Europe where gin comes from. So in all these different areas, you have different people creating these alcohols to take them as a form of medicine. But then after a while, because life was really hard back then, imagine you build a house and it's not a house, it's made out of like shrubs and branches and stuff, and then a bear just comes in and just robs you of everything, and you're just screwed. You're just screwed. You gotta drink if you live in life like that. That's why alcohol was so popular. You had Vikings and other people who were on boats, sailors, pirates, and they traveled all over the world bringing spices and wines and rums because everybody likes to get drunk. I don't know if it's like a bad thing, but everybody likes to get drunk, and it's like a universal thing. No matter where you go into the world, no matter how primitive that world is, they have something that'll get you lit. Mm-hmm. All right? Another thing is after alcohol came about, they had to make them tasty, right? Because you just drinking this gin or things that looks like gin, and there's no ice, there's no sugar. It's rather gross. So people started playing around with those spices, which is why you had a lot of your boats, your sailors that were seeking to deliver sugar and spices and citrus fruits. That's when bartenders started to become a thing around the world. They had little pubs and little communities where you went and you congregated and you got drunk, and that's just how you made it through the day. So all entire world is loving alcohol. There's issues with it. 1920s comes up. Prohibition. Have you guys heard of this? All right. So in the early 1900s, people felt like alcohol was really just evil. It was the devil. And they're like, what can we do to get rid of this? What can we do to outlaw this? Because people drink and they don't want to do anything. So the wives were like, we should ban alcohol. They didn't realize how much money we make off of alcohol. For every barrel of whiskey that is made in the United States, there's a tax on it. Once that production stopped, they stopped getting the money. And these are projections that start over years and years and years. So eventually they gave some of the whiskey distilleries the okay. And they said, hey, you guys can produce for like 5 months, you guys can produce for 5 months. And then they realized, okay, you know what? Maybe liquor is not that bad. So they ended prohibition, brought it back. In the process of prohibition, this is something just extra. The United States wanted liquor to be alcohol so bad that they started making bad liquor, pumping it out to people, and people started dying for the liquor that the government was creating. And they were like, see, look, told you liquor was bad. That was the government. So don't trust the government. And after so many years, after Prohibition, people started drinking more and more. And that drinking led to more glamour. In Hollywood, they came up with more cocktails like the bee's knees, the sidecar, the martini. It became a cocktail craze, and you saw it more and more in Hollywood and old glam. During the 1980s, you saw more people get into mixology, crafting. Some of the old liquors that was thought to be bad for you, like absinthe, it was making a comeback. So now you're like in the 1990s, people are really into drinks, they're trying new stuff, they're creating mixologists, this new term that you might hear. And some people want to know what's the difference between a mixologist and a bartender. Betwixt you and I, there's no real difference. You don't have to there's no real certificate for you to be a mixologist versus a bartender. There are classes out there for you, but there's no real difference. Like a bartender should be able to mix drinks like a mixologist should be able to bartend. It's the same thing. But, I guess it's difference between like a customer service person versus a customer service concierge. No difference, same thing. All right. Any questions about bartending? The history of it, everywhere it works. So we're going to jump into bartending tools. As a bartender, to make your job easier, there are certain tools that you need. If you're in a dive bar or a hole-in-wall bar, so have you heard of Rosie O'Grady's? Yeah, so that's about dive bar. Buckeye Crazy, you heard of Buckeye Crazy? Dive bar, okay. These are bars where they're selling a shot and a liquor. They're not doing drawn out cocktails, being at your restaurants and different ones. So depending on where you're at, there's two utensils that you should be aware of and you should know about. If you go to a bar and they ask you these terms or they say these terminologies and you don't know what they're talking about, they're gonna get catty with you, a little sassy, because they're gonna like, this chick don't know what she's talking about. So let's start with the first one, which is our cocktail shaker. And I'm gonna pass it around for you guys so you guys can see it. This is a Boston 10. Okay. Your Boston 10 is made out from 2 tins. You have your little cup, you got your larger cup. Whenever you build a cocktail, always build a cocktail in your smaller cup. The reason why is you build it in your big cup, you're gonna have an issue. It's gonna overflow. There's different types of Boston or cocktail shakers. Your cocktail shaker is basically there to I don't want to use that word, but to mix up your cocktails. So I'm thinking like a daiquiri, a margarita, maybe a sour. And those are what you use your shaker for. You will learn the difference between a shaken drink and a stirred drink. So we're gonna go through our craft cocktails and we're gonna tell you what's shaken, what's stirred, and what's built. There's several types of shakers you guys will run into. This is your Boston. Bostons are 10s. One of my favorites, when you're using your Boston shaker, when you have a cocktail in there, it's going this way when you're shaking it. Okay? Now, if you can do it this way, by all means. But sometimes as women, we don't have the strength. So I kind of like come from the core, right? Always keep your little part towards your back. If you don't, you do it this way, the force will probably push this out and your guest is not gonna be happy. Sure, it's happened to me before. Shake it, boom. You're done shaking it, there's a little part right here. You're gonna take the palm, tap that. It hurts, does not feel good, but comes off. And what happens is when you have your drinks in here and your coldness, it starts to seal it together as a vacuum seal. So you gotta get that hard tap on it. Some people will tap it on the counter. That's frowned upon, but look, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, all right? Another type of shaker is they'll do a Boston 10 with a glass. I do not like that. And the reason why is if you tap it too hard and the glass is too cold, it'll break. So then depending on where you're at, it's gonna break over the ice bin or wherever, so then you gotta burn your eyes and then you gotta clean up. But you have some people who feel like that's a good way to do it. And it depends on where you're at. Like if you're at a bar and that's all you have, that's all you have. So don't be like, Champagne said don't use this. Just keep it mentally, and just when it happens, like, see, that's why she said it. Another shaker we have is a cobble shaker. So your cobble shaker looks like this at the bottom, but it has this at the top. So this is your easiest of your shakers. So if you just want to get into the bartending field as a way to have fun and just do it for a casual thing because you're at home entertainer, this is something you might like. Not the greatest for high volume bars in my opinion, because remember, when your shaker is too cold, it seals it in. This becomes a SOB to pull out because it's so small and you're just there, you're pulling it off. Usually there's a little cap that goes on top because if you shake it, you're gonna be shaking at somebody's face. So, but great for homes. And the great thing about this is instead of you having to add a strainer to this to strain out, it has a built-in strainer in there. So you just like pull it out and it's just amazing, right? It's just amazing. So that is your strainers. And like I said, if you're working in a restaurant, this will probably be your best bet. It'll last longer. Some of these have better weight. I like mine to have a weight onto it. I don't know why. It's just like when you do little tricks, it allows you to be better with it. So those are that. Next is your jigger. This one, jigger with a J. we want to emphasize that. This is it. This is when you start doing craft cocktails, precision is very important because you want to have a balanced cocktail. You want to have a taste to it that's not too sweet or too sour or too bitter. It needs to be balanced, right? This is your jigger. This is a Japanese jigger because it's longer, and then you have your shorter jiggers. I like this one personally. It has more weight to it. If you look on the inside, there's measurements inside of it. Most of your cocktailers, once you get really good, you can start using the metric system, or just start now. I didn't grow up learning the metric system, so I'm learning it now. And it's nice to know because when you bartend, and let's say you bartend all over the world, in Europe, they're not, doing pounds and ounces, they're doing milliliters. So it's good for you to know. On the inside of your jigger, there are markings of how much, of the volume of liquor that you have when you're doing your research. So it's good for you to have it on the inside to look at it. Once you get really good, you'll be able to eyeball how much it is. This side is a 2 ounce, I believe. Yeah, and this side is a 1 ounce. Someone else with this. Jigger, size, ounces. Okay, so when you're measuring stuff, you want to pull it all the way to the top, to the brim. That gives you your full size. Depending on what restaurant you're at, they're going to want you to use it every single time. They're not going to want you to pre-pour. Free pour is when you just use this and this, and we'll talk about more of that. But they want you to measure jiggers because alcohol costs. They don't want you to lose a whole bunch of alcohol. They don't want you to go through a whole bunch of alcohol. That allows you to save how much you need. For Columbus, your average shots are going to be between 1 to 1.5 ounces. That's why you want that. A double, 2 to 3 ounces. The serve state certificate with the city of Columbus, they don't want you to do more than 3 ounces for a double. If you don't need a bartending license in Columbus, but that's a nice thing to have, especially if you're a freelancer, because they know, like, okay, so you know the rules and everything, we can trust you. So, jiggers are great. That's a double-sided one. You have single-sided ones. Single-sided ones are better for personal and recreational use. Some restaurants will have them just to be a little fancier, but I like a double one because you can pour vodka in one, pour rum in the other one, and keep it moving. All right, your muddler. This is your muddler. Looks awesome, right? It's sleek. I like metal muddlers. They last longer, they clean easier. Other people have wooden muddlers. You have to be careful with wooden muddlers because of the water. Yeah, girl, she got it. Go ahead, show her how you do it. Oh, there you go. Let's see. Yes. Now notice how she's turning it with her hand. That allows you to express the oils and juices from whatever fruit, herb, or spice you're using. So muddlers are great for when you have an herb. Thank you, ma'am. You have an herb and you need to get the oil out of it, like mint. So use a muddler for mojitos. You can use muddlers for lemons and limes because you might want to use the peel of the lemon or the lime and orange, and you want to express the oil out of it. Muddlers are going to be at most of your high-end restaurants. Jiggers are going to be at most of your high-end restaurants, mid-level country clubs, because they're doing more craft cocktails, not so much at your dive bars. If you're someone who's like, I don't think I'm really into cocktails like that, dive bars may be your best. And we're going to go over the pros and cons of all of the places that you can work, because some places you might love and some places you might not. It's really up to you. Your bar spoon. So this is cool. So you know how to use the bar spoon? All right, so let's get some participation. Oh no, Mom, don't worry about it. It'll come back to us. Look at that, boom. All right, one more again. There you go. So bar spoons are really, really fun. They're not like your regular spoon. Notice how it has a twist on the stem of it. Mm-hmm. That's so when you're stirring it, you don't have to keep resetting. It naturally follows the flow of your fingers. So go ahead, let's see what you got. I can listen to it and I can tell. All right, it's all right. So when you have a good motion. You have a good motion. When you have your bar spoon, and we're going to go, thank you, ma'am. So you have your front right here. This allows you to scoop. And then you got your butt. This butt is a very important butt. I like big spoon butts and I cannot lie. When you put it in here, it's going to go between your finger, kind of like I think that's how you write the pencil, chopsticks, right? It's going to go there like that. You're going to make sure the butt of your spoon always sticks to your tin. It should never come off. It should sound like that. And then when you have ice in there, it sounds better. But that's how it should sound. And that way you're getting all the goodies that's probably against the wall of it. You're getting all the nutrients. That's what you should be hearing, right? All right. And then once you get really good, you can have one over here, one over here. Look at talk like, yeah, I saw three wolves like that last night. They were crazy. They killed 4 people. I didn't say anything. I mind my business. And you keep going. So those are your bar spoons. They're great for, sometimes you'll do it this way, just when if I do like a built drink and I don't really want to shake it, built drinks are amazing because you go really quick. You may do that just to mix the sugar around, whatever type of sweetener you have involved with it. All right, spoons are great for martinis, old fashions, Manhattans, some of your classic drinks. All right, so next is your strainer. Boom, now this strainer is a fancy strainer. Your strainers are not gonna look like this. They're usually gonna have a hole, like holes in between here. They're always gonna have a spring. The springs allows you to set it in there. Your strainer is great because when you're making a cocktail, ice can make it better or it can make it worse. I'm sorry, I got this hair on my lip and it just will not go away. Okay. If you're making an old fashioned and you have it in here, you have your ice going, you use this, and you don't want the ice because you've already shook it, it's probably broken up, it's probably sharded. A clear, smooth drink is what most people want. Ice free of shards, they want it smooth. You're gonna put your finger right here on the neck of it. Now this is much bigger than this, and this head is pretty big, so give me a little grace on that. But it's gonna look like this. So when you pour it out, you're holding it like this. You're pouring it into your drink. You're making eye contact. Yeah, you like this? That's what I got, you know. Pour it in there, boom. You're done. There's different types of strainers. This one is a Hawthorne strainer. With the holes in it, Hawthorne. Why is it called Hawthorne strainer? No idea. But this is the most common one that you will use for high end. Do you know why it's called Hawthorne strainer? Don't worry, I'll know next time. I'll figure it out. I'm still researching it. Some things just have names and we have no idea where it came from, like the word cocktail. They were saying that it came from a horse's tail. And yes, it was a form of a horse tail, and the horses were called cocks. At the certain type of horse was called a cock, and then you have the tails that called a cocktail. I have no idea why they would associate that, but there's so many names in the world of bartending that people don't really have a big history for. So the other type of strainer you have is a julep strainer. The julep strainer, it looks like a scallop on the end. That one you'll use for when you're making mint juleps and other cocktails where you just really want to just mainly keep the ice in, but you're not worried about anything else. You also have these type of strainers. This is a strainer you use in your house, but you can use this as well. Most won't use it, but sometimes if you need a cocktail where you want it to be very smooth and clear, you'll use this. You'll take this. Now this is really, you have your strainer in here, boom. You have it over your cocktail, boom. You have your item, boom, and you're pouring it in there. This is your first line of defense against ice, but remember, it has holes, so some of those holes will get out. This is your second line of defense because ain't no ice getting through here. And then when you're done with it, you have a smooth frosted drink that has little to no ice in it. Now that is a hot debated topic in the world of bartending, whether you want no ice or some ice. So it really depends on where you're at, and at the end of the day, it depends on the customer. I'm sorry, again, I'm not sick, sinuses, all right? Okay, citrus juicer. So your citrus juicer, sorry guys. So your citrus juicer, which I dropped in the weigh-in, it is, have you seen the kind of citrus juicer you live in your house, right? So they usually have handles on there, and you cut your fruit in half, and you sit in the juicer. Now the trick is everyone tends to take their fruit and they put it this way inside of it, or sorry, they put it this way inside of it, and then they squeeze it out. They put the fleshy part in the front and the rind part down in the middle. Now that can work, but it's not the optimal way for you to get juice out of it. When you use your juicer, flip it upside down, put it in this way, and squeeze it down. So your butt of your fruit is going to be pointed up. When you squeeze down, it's going to split it open, but you're going to get the most amount of juice out of it. When you do it the other way, it like kind of pulls it down at the bottom and mashes it into the fruit. You want to mash it out the fruit. Yeah? So far, so good? All right. Let's keep going. So next is your bottle opener, which again, don't have, but it's all right. You've seen it before. So your bottle openers, you have the one where you have a corkscrew in it and it flips out like a little Swiss Army knife. Those are called wine keys. Those are more likely to be used in high volume bars and really anywhere. They're not hard to use, but they're tricky. The key is to use the side of whatever system as a pulley out of it. If you use it as a pulley, you'll get it out much quicker. If you try to pull it out, you can get it out that way. I don't have that type of strength, and it always backfires. So it blows up on me, or I drop it, and people don't like when you drop their liquor. You have flat bottle openers. That's for beer. They're flat. People keep them all the time. They're great for high volume. So you're just like pop, 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 pop. Wine keys, you can use them for beer, but again, high volume, it kind of makes it a little bit awkward because you got to sit there and make sure it's on top, and it can break after so long. You're not opening as much wine as you are with that. Next are glassware. So I brought some examples of our glassware. This is a close margarita. So margaritas, it is a they're all cocktail glasses, but this is a margarita. And you can tell because margaritas has a unique shape to them. Boom, boom. They're great for your frozen margaritas. Very good, right? And you'll see that. You'll tend to see them salt the rim, unsalted. Sometimes sugar. So those are really good. Another type of glass, we got another example today, is our
martini glass.
Yeah, this is your martini glasses. So you're putting Cosmos in there, martinis, obviously. All different types of martinis. That goes in there. You can put, thank you so much, espresso, which is a martini. There's like 9,000 martinis. Martini glasses are so classic. They never go out of style. Another example.
Call it a rocks glass.
Yeah, it's a rocks glass. And some people spell it like rock, like I'm gonna throw a rock at your house. Or rocks, R-O-X, R-O-U, which is a rude one, R-O-U-X. But rocks glasses tend to have your eyes, maybe a big old eyes, a big cube. That's for your old fashions. Any type of drink where it's like a liquor and a rock, so maybe Jack on a rock, Scotch on a rock. You're gonna put in your rocks glasses. A lot of restaurants here in the city, even though I'm telling you the proper names of these restaurants, or of these glasses, that's not what they use them for. So one of the things about being a bartender is you do need to be able to be flexible. A lot of people, when they go to bartending school, which I love, because if you need bartending school, you need it. Everyone learns differently, but you have to be able to be flexible. So even though this is a martini glass, if they use it for something other than a martini, do not blow a gasket. Just go with it. Go with it. Everyone does things differently. So you might see someone use a glass like this for a margarita. It is what it is. You just go for it. That's all they have. Glasses are expensive. People break them all the time. You also have other common types, which are highball glasses or column glasses. Columns and highball glasses, they're more square, cylinder, round up. They're very similar, but they are slightly different. Collins glasses, I think they're a bit more rounder in shape. Highballs are more just a cylinder, period. Things you put into those drinks are a mojito. That looks good. A highball or a Collins, Tom Collins, that goes in there. Another type is your wine glasses. You have different types of wine glasses. You have shorts, you have goblets, you have large ones, you got 6 ounce, you have 8 ounces. When you're pouring wine, listen to your bar, restaurant, wherever you work. A standard pour be about 4 ounces, 46 ounces. It depends on where you're at. So if I'm having an event and I'm serving wine for a special event, I'm doing 4 ounces. If I'm at a bar and they have the big old wine goblets, I'll probably do a 6 ounce. But it all goes to whatever your bar recommends. Your cutting board and your knife. You should always have this. All these tools I'm telling you about, you should have your own bar kit. If you're working in a bar, you don't really need it because they'll supply it for you. But it's nice to have because people they still all the time. I had a real nice bottle opener and I worked for this theater company. It was real nice and the old lady was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice. They wanted to use it. And at the end of the night, it was gone. It was stolen. So get you your own items. Get you a duplicate of your own items. Get your stuff to stand out if possible. And notate it or document on the item what you have so you can keep it because people will steal. Your coworkers, they'll look you in the eye and straight steal from you. Horrible people. But when you're doing your cutting boards and your knife, you need that because you want to cut your fruit, your lemons, your limes, your oranges, your grapefruits, your pineapples, whatever it may be. We will do a class in the future where I show you how to cut fruits. Fruit cutting can vary, but there's common types of way that your fruit should be cut. And you want your fruit to be cut a certain way so that you can continue to make cocktails quick and easy and also to decorate it. Because having a cocktail is an experience, right? What's your favorite cocktail?
I don't think there's a name for it, really.
Okay, tell me about it.
It's just like rum, cranberry, pineapple, and orange juice.
Ooh, so that's almost like a rum punch. Rum punch, rum run. You would love those. Does it kind of get you a little tipsy after 1 or 2, or can you keep drinking them all night?
I feel like I can keep drinking them. I don't know. I feel like I'm like, I don't know. I can probably just drink 7, 8. I don't know. High tolerance for liquor.
That's okay. You know what? After a while, you do build it up. My tolerance used to be really high. I had something the other night, and I was like, ooh, it's not high anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. And the rum punches, I love those. Do you drink? If you don't, we can.
I'm currently on a trend of vodka Red Bulls.
Vodka
It's
Red
not
Bulls?
really.
It's like the young thing.
It is a young thing. We used to do that when we were
It
kids.
makes so much energy. I'm just like, yeah.
You're like up and down. It's an up
Yeah,
and
it's
a
good.
downer put together.
Yeah.
Do you do sugar free or do you do with
Regular.
sugar? Regular. We used to do sugar free. We used to do vodka Red Bull sugar. And just be out there like, this is crazy. But it's good for you to know, if you know your own favorite cocktail, it helps you have a talking point to your customers. And like you like sweeter things. So if someone's like, I don't like the taste of alcohol, but I want to get lit, you have a great cocktail. For you in a bar, somebody's like, what can I mix with vodka? Red Bull. So it's a great way to start off of what you like and build your palate that way. Another thing is your bar mat and your towels. Do you have bar mats at where you work? All right. So your bar mats are the rubber mats. You see them on the bar, and they usually have things like advertisements of liquor. So Tito's and Captain Morgan's. And it's rubber, and it has spikes that go up, and it has a deep space. What that does is supposed to catch the drippage from when you're making cocktails. So a lot of your bars have wooden fronts, and you don't want your wood to be damaged by all the alcohol that you're going to pour. So those bar mats helps you. They're great savers, but they're not Jesus, okay? So you got to be reasonable. If you knock over a glass, it's going to get over everywhere. But if you're, squeezing some lime juice, you're pouring something and something comes out a little bit, you're covered. Your towels, you should always have a towel because you're going to spill something. Every day something is going to be spilled. Even I feel like I'm a really good bartender. I know some bartenders who are way better than me. They even spill things. Always keep towels, sandy buckets, something where you can clean up your alcohol. You don't want a sticky place. You want your place always nice. All right, another thing before we go further, some other things we didn't talk about are your pour spouts. These are these right here. This fits in most of your 750 milliliter bottles. They allow you to pour. Earlier we talked about free pouring, what that looks like, or free hand, some people might call it. Free hand, free pouring is when you're pouring your liquor and you're doing a count in order for it to become an ounce or 1.5 ounces. Your count can vary depending on who you are. Some people do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And that could be an ounce. For me, if I count like that, that is 250 for me. If I'm doing a 1 ounce, if I'm doing a 1 ounce pour for me, I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll cut it off. If you do a 1.5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After a while, you practice with these, your jiggers, and you'll start to get it. This is 2 ounces. You'll start knowing your counts. The counts can be very, very hard because even though you can get really good at counts, there is no one who is perfect at counts. So craft cocktails, they really don't want you to do freehand because even though you might be really close to it, you're probably going to be off still. So they're going to want you to use jiggers. These are what you're going to see in your bars. You're going to see the metal ones. They're going to be mostly silver. I'm just fancy because I like mine's in gold. Underneath it, there's a hole on top of it. That hole allows the air to come through. So when you start pouring your cocktails, it's very important that you don't cover up that hole. It's going to take it forever to come out. Your count's going to be off, and then you might splash it once it comes off. When you hold your bottle, you should hold it right here at the top. Now, some people say you don't have to hold it at the top. You just pour it like this. And you could if you like to live dangerously. I do not. Because you never know who was just toying around with it. You never know if if it's just science that started working its way up. Whenever you're pouring, hold your finger over the pour spout. That way, you know it's on there tight. You have more control of it, and it does look a little cool. And after so many times, you won't even notice that hole. So these, you have other ones that are plastic. I hate plastic ones. You can tell anyone I do not like plastic ones. The neck is shorter. They come out awkward to me because I feel like it's so short. This comes straight out. It's a little curve, so it's coming around the curve, and if it's a little bit of sugar there or some type of whatever, it makes it come out tougher. If you're serving cocktails really quick, you want everything to be quick as you are. Those shorter ones, you also have ones that are called sure shots. Sure shot pours they're clear and they have a little ball in there, and it counts how many ounces of liquor for you. So if you only get an ounce of liquor, it's supposed to count it for you, and then the ball stops it. So you don't have to do the manual stop your stuff. Those are great until they no longer work, and then they get stuck just like anything else. Proper condition of your pour spouts, you should always be cleaning these every single night. There is sugar in alcohol, there is sugar in your liqueurs, and it builds up in here. Once that starts to build up, you can't pour your drinks quickly, it takes you longer, and you become frustrated. Another thing is your tongs. You might not use this all the time depending on where you're at. You'll have an ice scoop, or if you do like craft cocktails, you will have like those blocks that you could do that with. Boom. If you're working at a event, you might use these. They're all different places. I only use these for very, very small events. I use these more for my garnishes than I do for ice. I use an ice scoop for ice because I don't have time to try to get this to work, and I need a lot of ice. But it's nice to have if you want to be fancy. Take it, has a little movement to it. And then the final thing right here is we have a ice bowl. If you're in a restaurant, if you're in a bar, you're going to have an ice trowel ready. It's already a big thing of ice that's in there, or wherever your designated place. What do you use at your job?
It's like a well.
A well, an ice well, yeah. So you're gonna have an ice well. If you're having a small event and you're like serving 10 to 20 people and it's at home, you're gonna use something more like this because they don't have a well. You want something cute and classy. I keep metal. I think metal is one of the classiest types of tools in bartending. I don't do plastic. I think it's cheap and it's bad for the environment. Metal or glass, that's how I roll, baby. Any questions so far? And these are just basic things. When we do a more advanced class, we'll talk about your caddies. You have garnish caddies, napkin caddies. Your garnish caddies can vary in looks. Some have ice in them, they're square, there are little compartments in them, and you can put your fruits in them. You have your napkin caddies, and we've all seen them. They're like napkins, they're usually on your table, and there's like 3 different compartments. So you got your napkins, you got your straws, you got your baby straws. Napkin caddies. But there's a whole bunch of tools, and we'll talk about that more of an in-depth class, but I could bring those in, where we can maybe set things on fire. So, let's talk about spirits. Sorry, don't ruin a good time. So we stop at 8:30. So I know I'm going fast, but this is just an intro, baby. You good?
Yeah.
Right? I'm okay. I'll send out a review after this. So be brutal, because I gotta get better. So let's talk about our spirits. So unfortunately, I can't bring liquor into the library. It's frowned upon, which you would think they need it because they hang out with kids all day, but them's the breaks. Your spirits are all about what helps you become a bartender in your own right. Now you have your alcoholic drinks and you have non-alcoholic drinks. We're going to focus on alcoholic drinks because these are very important if you're going to work in a bar that serves alcohol. A lot of people don't know their alcohols, and it shows. If you're trying to get a bartending job, everything I'm giving you today is the basics. This is what you need to learn to not sound like a jerk. Because when you go in there and you're telling me that you like Tito's tequila, and I'm like, I've never heard of Tito's. This is a true story. And she just knew it. She's like, oh yeah, Tito's has a great tequila. And I'm researching it. And I'm like, oh, she just gaslit me. You sound dumb. I would rather you say, I don't know, or I made a mistake and I can correct you. When you go into the world of bartending and you start, unless they let you know that this is the entry level, most of the time they really want you to hit the ground running. That's more respected when you know at least the basic minimum versus you coming in and you don't know anything. What's even worse is when you don't know anything and you don't educate yourself. So we'll talk more about that. But let's jump into the world of spirits. So first, let's talk about our beautiful whiskey. Have you guys had whiskey? What's your favorite types?
You already know yours, Mom.
Oh, man.
Fireball. Yes, Fireball.
Fireball, yes. Fireball and cinnamon whiskey.
I do love that.
They are good. Did you know that they actually are in a little bit of a legal trouble?
No,
Because they sell those little small Fireball whiskeys, right?
they really helped me when I had COVID, the little ones.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, because my throat was on fire. And that helped me. It really
Yeah,
did.
fire.
It was like a hot toddy type of thing.
And
Oh.
I mean, it just really soothed my throat.
They're great for parties. They're great, see, but look, alcohol as a medicine.
Telling you.
See, look at that.
They came in my house and I was laying in my bed and I just had the little
Cheers.
empty bottles everywhere on my bed. But it helped.
It feels good, right?
Yes.
Crazy. What they got in trouble for is those little ones, they're not really whiskey. They call them a liqueur. So that's how they're able to sell them in places where you can't sell alcohol because it's not truly liquor, right? But most people don't care, but it's just like the selective outrage. And they're like, you need to make sure you tell people this. But I like some Fireball. I've had someone put Fireball together with, it's Fireball and something else, and it tastes like a Dr. Pepper.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm talking about. It'll come to me soon, but it's Fireball. Something else tastes like a Dr. Pepper. That's what I heard.
I just know that it helped my throat, so I mean, it was just great.
It's just nasty.
It's a little the cinnamon and what gets me. What about you? What's your whiskey?
I'm a big Crown girly.
Ooh, Canadian, right? Hey. What do you like? The regular one, like the flavor?
I like Crown Apple.
Crown apple. That's a lot. People have that. I like the Crown peach. If I do Crown peach is amazing. You take that, put some lemonade.
I'm waiting for my seasonal to come out.
Ooh, yeah, Crown Apple is great. It is a whiskey from Canada. So we have whiskeys from all over the place. Whiskey is a complex liquor. It's one of the most complex liquors of the liquors. That's because of the process it takes to make a whiskey. Whiskey is one of the few also legally regulated liquors where you have certain rules and regulations that you have to abide by in order for it to be a whiskey or bourbon. Bourbons have to be made of 51% corn grain. Whiskeys do not. Whiskeys can be made all over the world. They're made in Ireland, Scotland, Canada, Japan, and Kentucky. Bourbon is made in Kentucky. It doesn't have to be made necessarily in Kentucky. It does need to be made in the United States, and needs to be stored in a new charred oak container in order for it to be classified as a whiskey. All right, I don't know what you got going on here, but it's still up there. Oh man, all right, it's good. So whiskey is aged in a barrel. You can find it in rick houses. They have sugar content in it. They have different flavors. So sometimes you get tobacco, you get apple, you get leather. Have you guys ever done the whiskey tours in Kentucky?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, if you're ever into it, you can, we'll fix it. I don't know, my computer just went wild on me. But if you're ever into it, you're ever into like trying different types of whiskey, go down to Kentucky, do the tours. So the tours down in Kentucky is where you'll find a lot of our distilleries. So you'll find, not a Crown Distillery because it's in Canada, but you'll find like Woodford Reserve, Jack Daniels. You'll find, hold on, in my Eagle Rare. You'll find all of your whiskeys down there. A lot of people don't like whiskey like that. Because of the taste, but it is an acquired taste. And it's also about finding the right type of whiskey. Same thing with your bourbons, all right? Next on there is your vodkas. So your vodka comes from Russia or Poland, depending on what side of the line you are. Vodkas are clear, they're odorless, and they have no taste to it. Now I know you're like, oh, champagne, what about apple vodka? What about some Ciroc vodka? Ciroc drinkers, you guys drink Ciroc? No? What kind of vodka we drinking? Grey Goose. Okay, Grey Goose. They have a nice bottle design.
Mm-hmm, they really do.
That's what gets people.
Pretty.
It is like the little same with Belvedere.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very nice bottle designs. What about you? What's your vodka?
Tito's.
Tito's. Why do you like Tito's?
Why?
Yeah, why? It's just cause.
Yep.
That's most people have Tito's. Tito's actually came up and advertised the whole we are gluten free, and everybody loves Tito's. Another gluten-free one is Kettle One. But the truth is most of your vodka is gluten-free because of the process. Vodka is made from a mash of either corn or potatoes and some or other grains, depending on where you're from. Once those grains are fermented, they create the vodka. They take the vodka and they send it through a filtering process 2, 3, 4 times, depending on where you're at. They ship it up, they package it out, and they send it out to you. The goal of vodka is for it to be as tasteless, odorless, and as clear as possible. And the closer and closer they get to it, the better they are. All right? Your vodkas, once you add fruit to it or sugar, it becomes a liqueur.
Mm-hmm.
Liquor has no additional sugar added unless it's a part of the natural process. Liqueurs, they have sugar added to it. That's how you get those fruit flavors. All right. So the next one is gin. All right, you guys like gin?
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean, what gin have you tried?
I don't
We
think
tried Hendrix.
Hendrix?
Had you taste at Taco Bell?
Hendrix is like a very more floral forward Hendrix, like flowers and well, that's what I get from it.
Did I like it?
You said it was bad.
So gin, also known as Jennifer, it comes from Europe, and it is I want to say the Dutch had a big hold on gin, but they make it from something called a juniper berry. The juniper berry is what gives you a real piney taste. That's what you're tasting in your gin. That's why most people like gin because it tastes really piney, like you're sucking on a pine tree. And there's different types of gin. So you have a Old Tom gin, which has more sugar in it. You have like a London dry gin, which is less sugar. Whenever you hear the word dry, that means it's not as sweet, less sugar. You also have more of your craft gins. So that's here in Columbus. There's a place called High Banks Distillery. Have you guys heard of it? Have you guys ever done any tours of any distilleries here in Columbus? I recommend it tremendously. I'll send you guys a link out tonight so you can kind of see some of the distilleries that I've toured. I've gone to Ireland and toured their distilleries. I've gone to Kentucky to tour their distilleries. I've been to a few here in Columbus. It's really cool to see how it's done. That's more of an advanced thing, but we'll talk about how that's supposed to look. When you're going in there, they're telling you the history about their brand. And then you'll also see that most of your liquor is based off of a grain or a fruit. Gin is one of those that's based off of a herb, the juniper plant. You have popular ones, which is Tanqueray. That's a popular one. Another popular one is Beef Eaters. A popular vodka, like you talked about, is your Belvedere, your Grey Goose, your Tito's. Your popular whiskeys, Crowns, your Fireball, Woodford Reserve, your classy little heifer, and Eagle Rare, which is rare to find right now. Because of COVID, they had to stop a lot of production in distilleries, and you find that there's shortage of certain liquors all over the world, or the pricing is way, way higher. Gin is great. Gin is good for, you can do gin and tonics. You can do gin sours. You can do a French 75, which is a gin and a champagne put together in champagne glass. So gin has a lot of differences. I like to put gin with a lime, with something citrus. That brings it out to me more than anything. Next is tequila. We got some tequilas, you didn't know?
Nope.
I just knew.
Shut up, Jada.
I know.
Tequilas make you lose,
I
right?
hear it.
Tequila is based from Mexico. It is only a tequila, a true tequila, if it's made from 100% agave or blue agave. It's a plant found in Mexico. Tequila only comes from Mexico. You've never heard of a Ohio tequila? You've never heard of a California tequila? Tequila comes from Mexico. And it's because it's made from the tequila, the agave plant, which they bake, and they're called piñas. They remind me of pine cones the way they're set up. They once they warm it up, it becomes softer. They crush it and they squeeze the juice out of it, and then they strain it to make it into tequila. So, name some tequilas. Name some tequilas that you guys know. Casamigos, yes. Terramana, yes.
Jose Cuervo.
Oh no, Jose Cuervo is not a tequila, actually.
It's not?
Yeah, right? Now, why is it not tequila? Can anybody tell me?
Nope.
No, it's cool. That's what I'm here for. So, it's not a tequila because it's not 100% blue agave. So, hold on. We're going to connect, and I'm going to show you what a blue agave plant does and what it looks like. Let's see. I'm so sorry. Crestron, that's what it's called. You guys have an Apple computer?
Yeah.
How do you like it? Because it's spelling for me right now. it's spelling for me right now. Crestron. I was doing so well. So anywho, but so Jose Cuervo is not a tequila because it is not fully 100% blue agave.
Mm-hmm.
It is known as a mixto, which means they mix the tequila with something else in order for it to be sold as it is. That's why Jose Cuervo is more of your cheapest tequilas, because it's not really real tequila. A real tequila is your Casamigos, is your Patron, your Don Julio. Depending on where it's from, they have different tastes, different flavors. Tequilas do have a little sugar to them. You have 3 different types of tequilas. You have your Blanco, which is clear. Most people like them. You have your Reposado, which is aged up to 3 months, 0 to 3 months. You have your Añejo, which is 3 months to your year. That one is a bit more rich in color, a little more brown. Your reposado is a little less brown, not as deep. And then you have extra añejo, which is like 3 years of grape. They're aged by 2 ways, either being in a barrel or by adding a little color to them. That's about it. Most of your tequilas won't be like that, but they'll usually try to age in the barrel, but some of them they will put in the color. All right, guys, give me 1 second so I can pull this back up. So my computer just shut down and it disconnected, and then it took forever to kind of work. And it's like, oh, you're trying to make me look like a fool in front of my friends. Did you guys have some bad times with tequila, or you just don't like the way it
I
tastes?
just don't like the way it tastes.
Yeah, I get that. When I was younger, when I was about your age, I used to really be into tequila, and I used to show off, like, let me get 6 things of tequila, and I would drink it, and everybody's like, oh, but it's just messing your stomach up so much. And you do your lime with your salt. In Mexico, they do have something similar to that. They don't necessarily do lime and salt. They'll do it with a type of another sauce or another type of fruit. It's very delicious. You also have its cousin mezcal. Have you guys heard of that?
What is that?
Mezcal is how we would say it, or mezcal. Mezcal is not made from the same agave plant as tequila is made. It's made from a different agave plant. So every mezcal is a tequila. Every tequila is not a mezcal. 0.73. For me, I don't like mezcal. It's more earthy. You'll hear people say it's earthy. It's more, it's a warmer taste to it, more smoky. I don't like it. I'll drink it. I like it if it's made with a passcode 3931. I like it if it's made with some type of like a strawberry margarita mezcal. But if you ever get a chance, try it out. It's okay. Have you had mezcal? Okay, have you had it? All right. It's interesting. I will tell you that it's a very interesting taste. All right, we're almost there, you guys. Getting here is half the battle. All right, let's do that. That's the PowerPoint. Okay, rum, gin, vodka, tequila. Rum. We didn't talk about rum. All right, let's talk about rum. Which is your favorite, right? Your rum punch?
Yes.
Yeah. So what type of rum are we doing?
Like Malibu.
Malibu is good. Malibu is sweet. I like it. I like it a lot. What about you? Are you into rum?
Kind of.
Okay.
I'll do Captain Morgan.
Ooh, spiced rum, right? Yeah, Captain Rum. Those are your famous ones. Rums are made in the Caribbean mostly, and they're made also. Well, this is not necessarily a rum, but it's a type of rum. It's pronounced cachaça or cachaça, depending on who you are or how mean you are to me. But it's made in Brazil, and it's made from a like a cane sugar that it's made from. You got your rum. Your rum is made from your sugars here, and it has different tastes depending on where you're at. So if you're in the Bermudas, if you're in Jamaica, if you're in Puerto Rico. So some of your famous rums are your Bacardi, your Dankou, your Kraken. That's a black rum. Captain Morgan has different ones as well. Myers rum, that's a Jamaican rum. It's much richer. Some of these rums are made from molasses, which I don't like. It gives it like a sweet, rich taste to it. But because it's so sweet and sugary, it pairs great with fruit. So like your oranges, like everything you make. And there's a rule that we say if it grows together, it goes together. So for instance, if you're making a tequila, what are some of your fruits that grow in Mexico that you might think grows in Mexico? I know, right? So like your mango, so like your papayas, those are more of your Caribbean fruits. Those are going to pair well with your tequilas. They're going to be great with your rums because they're down there, they're together. Vodka, you can pair it with anything. You can pair. That's why people love vodka. It's easy. If you're making a cocktail for someone and they're like, oh, I don't know what type of liquor I like, hit them with that vodka. Vodka tastes great with anything. There was people in school when I was younger who had vodka in their water bottles and got away with it because vodka has no smell. Now, these are teenagers, so obviously there's some stuff going on at home that they gotta sneak in vodka, like a whole 16 ounces lit at school at 15. Wild. Moral of the story is vodka has no smell. So there you go. If you ever want to sneak into a movie theater, just tell people I told you to do it. Rum also used to have a tax on it. It was something very that was shipped around by pirates and sailors. It had a high value on it for the United States. The United States actually entered into agreements with the Caribbean, some islands in the Caribbean. They put certain types of, citizens who live down there so we can have a secure path of rum, because it was so big back in the 1800s when we were still trying to create the United States and trying to create our colonies. It was very big back then. So let's go. All right, we got it, you guys. I think still trying to come together. Right? A little bit too far. Spirit, gin, tequila. We talk about agave. We talk about all that. Boom. Oh yeah, we can also go back and talk about some of your cocktails. That would be good with that. So for a famous cocktail that you make with whiskey is an old fashioned. Your Manhattans, whiskeys. Your vodkas, Sex on the Beach, screwdrivers. Those are great with your vodkas. Your rums. Rum runner, rum punch. It's like easy ones to go to. Your gins. Your gins are going to be like your French, your gin crush, gin sours. Really easy ones to go to. And then you have other ones that we didn't touch too much on. So you have your cognacs. Guys wear cognacs. What's a famous cognac? Everyone talks about it.
Oh, Hennessy.
Hennessy, yeah, you get drunk off that Hennessy. Exactly. So Henny is actually a cognac. A cognac is a distilled brandy. Cognac is a distilled wine, which is a brandy. Cognacs only can be made in Cognac, France. If it's not made in Cognac, France, it's just a brandy. So I'm trying to think famous brandies. I can't think of, like, you have apple brandies, and you have apricot brandies and peach brandies. Those are distilled wines that went through the process, and they're made anywhere else in the world but cognac. Then you have your wines. Your wines made in France, they're made in America, they're made in the South. Wines are made all over the place. No one owns anything with wines anymore. All right, I am so sorry, you guys. This is it's just ruining my life here. All right, let's try this again. Come on, you guys. All right, we gotta hurry up. I'm trying to go through everything. Cognac. Liqueurs. Depends how you pronounce it. So remember how I told you a spirit and liquor has no sugar added to it. Once the sugar is added to it, it is made into a liqueur. Okay. So the type of liquor, and you've seen them before: Midori, Grand Marnier, Cointreau. Those are liqueurs because they're liquors and they have a little bit of sugar added to it for that sweet taste to them. You cannot serve them to kids. Do not serve them to kids. I can't repeat it hard enough. It looks like juice. Do not serve it to kids, okay? Most of your liqueurs that you're going to see common is Mr. Boston. Mr. Boston, he is a, I don't have my book with me, but Mr. Boston created some of your older Boston alcohol crafter books. And this is how they started bartending. So they told us to make these drinks, do these things, use these spices. Old company from way back in the day. So a lot of your liqueurs you're going to see for them. So like for an apple martini, you can make an apple martini, blackberry. Any of your Cirocs that have syrup in it, it's truly a liqueur, but we'll let people be great. All right, so let's talk about breaking into the bar scene. If you were to bartend, no, when you bartend, because you're gonna do it, where do you wanna bartend? Like what establishment? Where do you see yourself?
I don't really know.
You don't really know. You're just testing out. You just wanna see informational stuff.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, right? What about you? You're in a country place, but
Yeah.
do you want to stay there? Do you want to go somewhere else?
I'd like to venture out at some point.
You are. You're gorgeous. You guys are gorgeous ladies. You don't have to stick to one place. The sky is your oyster. Breaking into the bartending scene. Restaurant bartending, master of the menu. So working in a restaurant. The pros of working into the restaurants, you're generally going to have a lot of people there. You're going to see a lot more people. You have things like food. When people have food, they naturally want to drink. So they're going to automatically buy a lot from you. You have higher tips that you'll potentially get from the bar. You'll have more opportunity to work, consistent work. You're there 40 hours a week because everybody wants to eat. The cons of working in a restaurant. Restaurants, they're a lot of work, so you don't get things like breaks. Most of the time, no bartenders get breaks, but you definitely don't get a break in a restaurant. It's high pace. You have to be able to interact with each other quickly. You have to be able to understand things quickly. You have to be able to hit that heard and keep moving. Heard is the affirmation of I said something, you heard it versus, okay, so let me tell you what I think you said. You don't have time for that. It's quick, quick, quick. You're dealing with customers. If you have several customers, you might have 3, 4 customers at one time. You can't focus a whole hour on one customer. You've got to spread that out. And then you also have to make sure you give them enough service that they all will tip you. Tips are not guaranteed, but the better you are, the more likely you'll get tips. Let's see. It provides a dynamic and fast-paced environment to learn the basics of crafts. You will be more likely to do craft cocktails there. So you'll more likely use this and all the tools in a restaurant. You'll serve classic and signature drinks. You need to be able to understand your core classic cocktails. In restaurants, in country clubs, more people are going to ask for those classic cocktails. You need to be able to make them. When you apply for jobs, they're probably going to ask for you to make a cocktail because 1, they want to know that you know your basic. And 2, they want to know that you'll be able to execute your basics. Pairing expertise. When you work in a restaurant, you have to memorize your menu, depending on where you're at. Most of them you will have to memorize your menu. You'll have to memorize not only your foods, you also have to memorize your cocktails. You'll have to be able to sell them the pairings together. If they're having a big steak, they need something to cut through the fat of the steak, so maybe you recommend them a red wine to go with the steak. Or if they have a fish, some red wines will go with fish, some will go with whites. If they're having some tacos, what could you go with a taco? Maybe a margarita, maybe a paloma. You have to have different ideas of what you can pair together. The better you are at your craft, the higher your tips will be. At the end of the day, tips are important. Customers are important, but you're not there because you just, like a volunteer, you're there to make money. Customer service skills. This is where you need to be good with customers. You cannot fake it. You need to look good when you walk in there. You need to smell good. You need to be knowledgeable, and you need to smile in their faces because that's what they're there for. If they're spending money, they want an experience. COVID has taught a lot of customers how to make cocktails at home, how to make gourmet foods at home. Because of this, when they come to bars, their expectations are a bit higher. So you can't play around. You need to know your stuff. You need to be able to talk. So as we're talking tonight, I'm engaging with you. I got eye contact. I throw some jokes. You're not like me. That's not the goal. The goal is to be like you, but make sure that you can come across likable. People tip likable people. I know some bartenders who are not likable people, and they blame their low tips on everything but themselves. All right? So that's why in the serving game, either you need to like customers, you need to really like serving, or you need to fake it. I'm not always happy when I serve, but I fake it because I like money. Speed and efficiency. You have to be quick in a restaurant. You know what grinds my gears? When someone dilly-dallies. When I order something, they're just like, she wants this. Maybe a little bit of, maybe not. I don't like that. You need to be moving. I need to see things going around. I need you to be throwing stuff. I need to hear things. I need to see that there's a sense of urgency. It's a restaurant. You have 4 to 5 customers. You have to be quick because people will complain. People complain first quicker than they will give a compliment. It's life. You need to be efficient. You can't just be fast and sloppy. That's not okay. If you're making a martini, it shouldn't take you 15 times to have to restart a martini. You need to understand your spacing. You need to understand who's next to you. In a bar, behind a bar is probably gonna be 2, 3, 4 of you maybe working behind there. You've got to be able to do the dance of bartending where you're not bumping into each other. You're hearing what's around you. You're aware. Being a bartender is not for the weak. It's if you're a good bartender, you're on 10 at all times because you need to be. So if I'm at an event and I'm serving a cocktail and maybe I'm closer to the beers and she's done and I got a big butt, it's gonna take her a little bit to get around me. It's cool, you guys, I recognize it. So maybe if someone asks for a beer, instead of her having to walk all the way over here with my 5th arm that's gonna come out, I'm gonna grab it, boom, throw it to her, keep moving. That's if you code, it takes a little bit. But that's your restaurant. Restaurants also, you have pools. Everyone has tip pools. It's very important when you go and you interview, you ask what your tip process is at the beginning. Most restaurants tend to have a tip pool, which means that everybody collects all the tips, it comes together, and is split either amongst all the bartenders, servers, and the kitchen staff, or whatever they determine. Some places it's been split up between bartenders only. Some places have to split it with servers, and then sometimes you have to split it with the house. It's very important that you ask these questions because you don't want to go there and work a hard week, and you look at your check and you're confused about how your stuff is being split. All right. So, but restaurant pros and cons, very good option. Fingers crossed, I think I can make it. We're almost there. Okay. Any questions about working in a restaurant? No, okay. Event bartending, crafting experience, that's what I do. So my business, we do events. I always look for bartenders. Event bartending tends to be opportunities, wedding, corporate events, music festivals, whatever it may be. These are things that you don't need a bartender for a consistent basis. So you might work 3 or 4 times a week. You might travel all over the world. This allows you more leisure. It allows you more flexibility. Events, depending on the type of event, it may not be as intense as a restaurant would be. But if you're doing like, you're serving beer at a Beyonce concert, you're gonna be busy. You know, everybody wants to drink. If you have a wedding or an in-home private event, you might only be serving 20 people, but you have to be more personal because you're providing a higher scale service. So what we do, we have custom cocktails. So we create our own cocktails. We serve them at people's events. They love it, they order it. These are our signature cocktails. So you'll be able to do that more in those types of restaurants or those types of events. And we do more batching. Restaurants do batch cocktails. And what I mean by batching is that means all the ingredients of a cocktail, you put it together and then you serve it versus having to put it together individually. So it's almost like making a big old thing of Kool-Aid that you serve at one time versus making individual cups of Kool-Aid. Adaptability, you have to be able to adapt in different locations, settings, and be able to manage high volumes or orders efficiently. Same like you would do in a restaurant, except for a restaurant, you know your service every single day. You know you open at this location at this time, you're gonna have these customers. It becomes repetitive. Now your situation will vary, but your process is gonna be repetitive. Event bartending, not so much, because I have to be able to, if I go to a home and they don't have enough space and I have a lot of things, I have to be able to use what I need and what's necessary in order to maximize that little bit of space. So I want to say last week we had an event at this house in New Albany. It was a very nice house, beautiful house. And it was the kind of house where they had wooden floors, they had edges with things all over the place. Again, got a big booty, very close place. And I have to get through these places where there's like telescopes and there's portraits, and these are $1,000 things. And I don't know if you know this, but I don't have that kind of money. So you have to be mindful of working in those places, because my rule of thumb is if you can't afford it, don't break it. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to navigate a situation where that customer doesn't know anything about liquor or she doesn't know anything about bar setup. So you have to make sure that bar is set up where it's functional. Maybe you're doing a wedding today. Maybe you're doing some type of coaching seminar tomorrow. It could vary. So you have to be very limber when you do event bartending. You have to have an open mind, because sometimes you'll do an event, and if it's a wedding where you have people from another country, they don't tip as much, because in other countries tipping is not a big thing. So they might not tip you as well. Does that mean you're rude to them? No. It just comes with the business. Some nights you up, some nights you down. It is what it is. Your presentation. Restaurants, you do have to worry about presentations. The higher the restaurant, the more aware of the presentation of your cocktail you need to be. The lower the quality of the restaurant, the more they're like, just make sure it doesn't poison them, so give it to them. Your events, because you're creating a signature cocktail, it does need to look a certain type of way. It needs to look good, it needs to look fancy, it needs to look nice, because people are paying you money for an event bartender, right? You're making between $15 to $20 an hour here in Columbus, 12 to 20 here in Columbus. If you're at a restaurant, you're making between $2 to $5 in a restaurant because of bartending. But at least in a restaurant, in theory, if you're seeing more people, you have a higher chance on creating tips. If you're at an event, you may not work a wedding where you can get tips. So some tips. So some people feel like if I'm having a wedding, I don't want you to tip the bartenders because I want people to worry about money. I want them to have a good time. So you're not going to get paid really much for that one, but you have your base. It's higher than people who's working in a bar. That would be crappy if you worked in a bar and they're like, we're not going to tip you all like that, but we're going to pay you $5 an hour. There you go. You might feel a little bad about that. And I've worked in situations where I was getting paid $5 an hour and the tips were bad. And it just does not, a happy champagne it does not make. Finally, your teamwork. Event bartenders, your job is to create a fantasy. Your job is to execute the vision of whoever set up the event. So teamwork is necessary in everything, right? Restaurants though, it's just kind of a given. Event planning, it's all on you and your people's shoulders. You can't just fall back and say, oh, the chef did this wrong or someone else did it. You are the only ones there. The focus is on you. I can sit here and lie to my guests like, man, I want to get your food out so quickly, but kitchen's backed up. What they really don't know is I forgot to put the order. I forgot to, or, your order was done, but there was a hair in it. And I said, no, I sent it back. I'm so sorry. I just feel like you need to have good food. Forgot to put the order in, You don't have that event bartending. Like, it's just you're out there. You don't have bar backs necessarily. It might just be you, so you have to be able to talk to each other. But no matter where you're bartending, teamwork is important. Even if you don't like those people, you still need to work with them. Your money should come first over anything. Private bartending. Same thing as event bartending. Private bartending, someone might take a contract out, and I don't want to say they own you because that sounds horrible, but they have exclusive access to you. So maybe I used to work for this millionaire guy, and how it started off with this lady who was on Facebook. She said she needs a bartender. It was during COVID, how I started my business. And I was like, yeah. And she said, I can't tell you where you're going, and I can't tell you who's going to be there. And I don't know this lady. And she was like, I got to pick you up. Sounds like human trafficking, right? Sounds like but I'm like, I lived a good life. COVID's it's been a really sucky year, so let's just go for it. And I went out there, and it was a millionaire's. I still can't say anything about it because I have a contract. But it was an estate where he had the main house. You got the little barn over here. You got a security house over here. You got the the house manager's house over here. Like, easy, rich. They have a salon in the house. They have a ballroom. It takes you like 20 minutes to walk from the kitchen to the bedroom. Like, it's a really, really big house. I was contracted to them. So I had to go through background check. So if you got warrants or you're sketchy, you're not going to be able to do this. I had to get fingerprints. You can't be sketchy. You can't be sketchy because you're walking in people's house and they have camera securities watching you. So if you staring at something too long, you look like a thief. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I have to tell my people. Don't look at things too long. Don't touch anything. If you're there, keep your eyes straight because it's different things. There's different etiquette that you have in private homes. You can't walk around like this in the house. It's frowned upon. You can't talk with this type of value. You gotta talk like this. Hey, I saw that you didn't have any more gin tonic. Would you like another gin tonic? They don't like loudness. It's a different type of etiquette and decorum, okay? Attention to detail. At this time, if you're making a cocktail and there's spots around here, you're only serving like 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 people. Don't be lazy, clean it out. Make it look good. Presentation is very important. Taste is very important. You have the time and dedication. Also, customer-client relationship. You're in a restaurant, your conversation is going quick. You know, if you're busy, you can't spend that hour making this person feel good and trying to see what they like to drink. You have that when you have a private person. You know what they like to drink. Whenever you set up there, they already, like he liked to do Manhattans. He likes my Manhattans. Boom, boom, boom. I knew what he liked every single time. He liked Whistle Pig, expensive whiskey. I knew what he wanted to do. Another place to work at is bars, your dive bars. Your bars vary. Bars tend to have less, dive bars tend to have less structure than your restaurant. Dive bars is usually you have regulars, you know their names. Similar to country clubs, you have regulars, you know their names, you know what they like to drink. It's more casual. Sometimes you wear t-shirts to your dive bar where you're at. Country clubs, you have to wear uniforms tend to, or a certain type of setup. So those are places where your country clubs are closer to your restaurants. They're nicer. You can't go in there, you can't call him a shithead or anything in a country club. Frowned upon. Dive bars, anything goes. I worked at Rosie O'Grady's and anything went, right? Dive bars, depending on it might be unsafe too, because you know, people shot at Rosie O'Grady's. But it took one gun fight and I was like, out.
Yeah.
Guns do not. So if you work in the hood, wear a bulletproof vest. So almost done. How do you break into bartending? How do you become a bartender? The first thing I recommend, this is your first step. This is great. You got a light education into bartending. You got a light understanding of the things you'll see, of some of the glasses you see. Get educated. Education is out there easily. You can take a bartending school. There is a Columbus School for Bartenders here. It's located off of High Street. Classes are between, I want to say $600 to $1,000, and it's like a 6 to 8 week course. You go into a room. They teach you behind a bar. Michelle actually went to Columbus Bartending School, and they have contracts set with different locations here in the city where after you go through it, you 9 out of 10 have a guaranteed job. So that's a great way to do it. Another way is to fake it until you make it. How does that happen? What I did was I went to YouTube and I learned all the basic stuff you learned here. And instead of me going to a high-end bar, a high-end restaurant, I went to a really crappy bar, a really crappy restaurant, someplace where they need you, where they're like, I don't care, I will teach you, I'll take you in. I went there. I started working for event. I think that's a great way to get into bartending. I started working for the events at the Levy, at the convention center. And you're not making a lot of drinks. It's really just, you have your liquors, you have a couple mixers, that's it. You have beers, that's it. Great training ground. Kappa has bartenders. They're always looking for bartenders. Michelle works there. Easy stuff. I make more cocktails there because I'm an actual bartender and I don't mind. I like making cocktails. Most people aren't. They're just there to pour wine, beer, and a shot. Very easy though, so that you can get into the feel of it. Learn your cocktails. Learn your basic cocktails. Learn your basic things here. I'll send you guys a list tonight to your emails of your cocktails that you know, an intro video that I made, as well as I have a booklet that teaches you more. It's like intro to bartending. So I'll send that out to you guys. And it talks more about your different liquors. Understanding your popular liquors when you go into a bar, that's another form of getting educated. Again, you don't want to say you like Tito's tequila. You sound weird. You don't like to say, hey, I like Tito's and vodka. You sound weird. Understand your liquors. If you're going to fake it until you make it, you have to know stuff. Because people will test you. You should be learning things every day. And ask questions. When you get into an entry-level position, try bar backing. Bar backing is hard. It's really hard. It's a lot of lifting and pulling, and it's tough. I never had a bar backer. I don't think that would have been for me when I first started bartending in my early 30s. 20s maybe, 30s But when you're bar back there, you're doing like a co-bartending thing, it allows you the opportunity to learn the bar because it is a whole culture back there. You can't let service back there. You have to engage with people a certain way. It allows you to learn bar etiquette. If somebody is with this customer and they step away and do whatever, don't go and take their customer. You could, but you gotta know how to fight. I don't know how to fight, so I'm not taking no one's customers. But that's bar etiquette. Build a portfolio. When you start working at bars, start practicing cocktails there. Sometimes you can because they're like, we want you to get experience. Sometimes you can't because they don't want you to waste the liquor. Liquor is expensive. I would be mad if you're making 40 cocktails of my finest vodka. Use the well stuff. Use the stuff in the speed well. Your speed well is right here in front of you. That's mainly your cheaper liquors, your lower end liquors. But practice. And when you practice making those cocktails, take pictures. We're in the age of pictures. Everybody's taking a selfie, They're taking pictures of cocktails. Create your Instagram. Create a envelope or a folder on your phone of all your cocktails that you created so that when you do go in an interview, anybody can say, oh yeah, I've been a bartender. And they know the world of bartending, it's a high turnover rate, so it's hard to confirm it. And if you say something weird, like if you're talking to me and you're like, oh yeah, I use a pour to measure cocktails, I'm looking at you funny. But if you have something to show, like I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I might be more willing to choose you to work for me. You might not know the names and stuff, but if you make good cocktails, I can work with you. Network with people. You know me, I know people. That's your first step. You're in there. If you're good at your job, I will put you in with whomever because I'm all about helping who needs to be helped. Go to mixers. Go online. I have an Instagram. It's called The Bubbly Babe, and I share tips. I share about camps that we have. I went to bartending camp. We have PDCX, which is a training that's out in Portland. They have all kinds of things in Kentucky. Get connected. Bartending can be a hard one to get into if you want to go to fancier places, but right now it is open. Entry level is open to whomever. So just get connected. And finally, stay informed. Stay on top of what's new, any trends out there. Liquor.com is a great way for you to sign up for trends that's going on. Trends is like maybe as a mint julep type of season, so people are doing all types of mint juleps. Why is that important? If you have a customer in front of you and they're like, oh, I don't like anything you have here, I want something different. I know cocktails, bing, bang, bong. You in there, baby. Tips on tips on tips. That's the name of the game. Innovative techniques. Are you using dry ice? How do you use dry ice? Should you use dry ice? That's advanced. So let's talk a little more of our classic cocktails. So these right here are the classic cocktails that you should know how to make. We won't go too deep into them, but this is just for you to see. We have glasses for 3 of them, which is your martini, boom, your old-fashioned, boom, and your margaritas, which is a little different. When you guys make cocktails generally belong in a certain type of glass. Again, everyone might not have these glasses, but it's good to know these glasses. This is a list of your 10 classic martini or classic cocktails that people will ask for if you're at an event. Last night I had to make whiskey sours, and not like the new way where you just splash sour mix into the whiskey. I did it by hand and I added an egg to it. That is an advanced type of cocktail. Have you ever had old fashioned? No? Would you do it? Would you try it? Would somebody put like some raw egg in a cocktail? No?
That's weird.
It does sound gross, right? It sounds gross. And as I listen to it, I'm like, well, that sounds good tonight. But I'm trying to be like a bad chick like you in life, so I can't really drink that just for fun. But for a whiskey sour that has an egg, it creates the reaction when the egg hits the acid. It creates an action that's similar to you cooking eggs on your stove, a chemical reaction. So there's still a risk of you contracting something like salmonella, but it's not super high. But life is about risk. You're drinking liquor. That's going to shut your whole liver down. Why not try an egg? And then you shake it, and it's foamy, and it's so good, and it's so creamy. But that's a basic cocktail that you need to use. You never know when you have an a-hole or a cocktail connoisseur comes in, and they always want to test you. Whenever you work as a bartender, you're always going to get someone who's cocky. and they want to test your gangster. And they're just like, do you know how to make a sidecar? And you're like, no. And they're like, all it is just sugar and Hennessy and lime. And you're like, I don't have Hennessy, jerk. That's why I can't make a sidecar. And they're like, oh. Always know your stuff. Your martini, the epitome of elegance. Have you guys had a martini before? Yes. Pure liquor. That's all really it is, right? Pure liquor. Martinis, James Bond, he made this famous thing, a famous way to process a martini famous. He likes to shake it, not stir. So you're like, oh my gosh, I should shake martinis. Don't shake a martini. Don't know that you're a noob right off. Martinis are not to be shaken. They're to be stirred. Why? Inside of martinis, there's this called vermouth, dry vermouth. Vermouth is more like a wine. It's like a distilled wine. Would you shake a glass of wine? No, right? It bruises the fruit, changes the flavor profile. Same thing with dry vermouth. It's a wine, you're not going to shake it. So your martinis, you're going to stir them. How would we make a martini? So the first thing we would do is we would take our martini glass, we would fill this with ice and water because we want it to be chilled. You do not put ice in a martini. That's a sign that you are a noob. You're going to take it, you're going to get your vodka, pour that on there. You're going to do about an 1.5 ounces to 1.75 ounces. You're going to get you in here your jigger. You would measure both of them, but if you're a badass, you're going to just pour it in there. You're going to measure out your dry vermouth. So your martini is probably equal parts, 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, depending on who you are. If you have 1 part vodka, 1 part dry vermouth, if they're like, I want to, maybe it's like a really dry martini, less vermouth, more vodka. Vermouth gives you like a sweeter taste to your vodka. That's why people like it. I like mine a vermouth martini. So more vermouth than anything. Some people like more vodka. That's when you have those conversations. A true martini, the original martini, however, was made with gin. So if you're working in a restaurant and you want to show off, ask them, do you want a vodka or gin martini? And they're like, oh, okay. And then you can tell them how martinis were originally made from gin. The other one you will make is your, so for your martini, once you pour it in here, you pour your vermouth, you pour your gin or vodka in there, you're going to stir it up. And depending on who you are, you might say, keep stirring it until you feel a little like twinge in your finger, so you feel a little pain. Or, count to 30. The reason why you're stirring it is because you want the ice to dilute the alcohol, because you're just drinking pure alcohol with a martini and no ice. So you want that ice to help dilute it a little bit so it's not as strong. Once you get done pouring it, or stirring it, you're going to take your little strainer, and then you're going to take your ice and your water, pour it out, because now you have a chilled glass, and then you're just going to strain it out. Use your imaginations. It's like, oh my gosh. And once you learn how to pour it out at a distance, it looks pretty because they think they're getting a lot, but they're not. You're just pulling it away from your glass. Presentation is great. The better presentation you are with your cocktails, the more likely people are going to give you money. Again, name of the game, get that money. You're going to put a lemon peel in there, boom, drop it in there, serve it. Let them get that first taste off. Don't just walk off. And if you're in a dive bar, we don't care. But if you're in a restaurant, let them get that first taste. Make sure it's okay, walk off. I always tell them, like, I need instant gratification. Can you taste that for me? I just want to make sure you like it. And they'll taste it. Your other staple, your old fashioned, goes in a rocks glass. Old fashions are best with a bourbon because it's more of a sweeter taste. You have different types of whiskeys, different types of bourbons. If it's a corn or a wheat, it's probably going to be a little sweeter. If it's a rye, it's going to be a little more spicy. I like rye. I like corn. So same thing, these are also a stirred cocktail. So that was a stirred cocktail. Old fashioned stirred cocktail. First thing, you have bitters. Bitters are in the field of themselves. You guys know what bitters are? It's cool. So bitters are a little liquid that is made from herbals, aromatics, as well as a liquor like a vodka or an Everclear. They take those together, they merge them, infuse them, strain it out, and then you have a leftover liquor that has a little bit of an herb or a little bit of an orange smell to it. They give you a little bit of the bitter taste that you're looking for in your cocktails. That's what you use in your old fashioned. Bitters have alcohol in them. Do not serve them to children. Bitters have alcohol. Do not serve them to children. I have to say that. I've seen it happen before, and it's like, why don't you know that? Because they didn't at least take basic intro to bar class, right? So the first thing you're gonna do for your old fashioned, if it's like a really good old fashioned, you should have sugar cubes. If it's not, they'll probably have simple syrup, which is just water, hot water, and sugar mixed together for a simple syrup. 1-to-1, 2-to-1 parts. When you hear things like 1-to-1 and 2-to-1, that just means 1 part this, 2 parts this. That way they don't have to tell you exact measurements like a quarter or 2 ounces. So you have your sugar in there, boom. You put your droplets of your bitters on top of the sugar to help loosen it up, to help moisten it up a little bit. You take your 2 ounces of your whiskey or your bourbon, you pour it in there. You take your ice. Square ices are great. Some bars will have them, some won't. You're gonna take it and you're gonna just do that. Now, if this was a real ice, it'd be much smoother, but you know, classic ice. So you're gonna do that. Same premise for your martini. So you still feel a little tinge in your hand, or about 30-45 revolutions. And then once you're done, you'll put a orange garnish and then a cherry. You're gonna push it forward and you're like, bon appetit. Wait for it. Take it. Wait for them to taste it. Walk off. All right. When you're doing your cocktails and you're serving people, remember it's presentation. So put this down, boom. Put a napkin there, boom. When I'm doing classic cocktails, I don't put straws with them. I'll let them ask for straws because if they're a snob, you don't need a straw for vodka. You don't need a straw for old fashioned. You just take 2.
15 minutes.
All right, almost done. Finally, your margarita. This is the last one. Margaritas, 9 out of 10. Well, no, I was about to get you lying. Margaritas can be frozen, which is what you were used to, or they can be liquid. We're going to look at doing a liquid one. Most people are going to do liquid margaritas because people hate blenders. The bartending community hates blenders. You can attest to it. Mm-hmm. It is just because you have to understand the consistency that you need to make your margarita. If you're not good at how much ice to liquid ratio you need, it's either going to be too frosted, it's going to be too liquid, and then it just takes time. People hate blenders. So they probably have a blender if you ask for a margarita. They just don't want to make it. They're going to hate that. I gave you that secret, but don't tell them I told you that. Your margarita, you're going to shake this one. You're going to first take your ice out. Boop. You're going to drop your ice in there. You're going to add your triple sec. Whatever your mixture is, whatever your recipe is. Triple sec. What is triple sec? Does anyone know? What classification of spirit would a triple sec be? It is a liqueur. Triple sec, have you guys ever seen triple sec before? Mm-hmm. All right. So, types of triple sec. Triple sec is a liqueur. It's usually in the Boston glass, and it's an orange liquor. It has an orange flavor to it. It's made with sugar and probably like a vodka base or Everclear base, and that's how you get it. You don't need a lot of it. You just need a little bit to give a little You're also going to put in there some fresh lime juice. Fresh is always better than processed. Processed has sodium in it. Fresh, but it goes back quicker. You're going to get your lime juice with your fresh juices because when you work at a restaurant, you hand press everything, girl, because you are something serious. So you pour that in there, put a little flair in it. It's a bar, right? It's a bar. Have fun with it. Boom. Next, all right, you want a tequila. Pour. 2, 3, 4. Boom. Put that down. They're looking at you like, I'm impressed. Bam. Pop that on there. Shake that mother. Sometimes I shake it. Throw it back so that you have something to look at. All right, we're done. Remember, you're going to hit that. There's going to be some that comes out a little bit. So, you do this, and they're looking at that. They're like, yeah, get that last little drop. You put that down. Get your pour. And for margaritas, you either I would pour it on ice. I would pour it on ice. Or you might not have to. If you have enough, you can just pour it straight. But you're gonna take it in here, and you're just gonna pour your margarita on ice, or without, depending on how you like it. Boom. And then you're gonna sock the rim. So you would sock the rim before. You usually have a rimmer, which is another tool that we go over. And for your rimmer, you would take the side of this, put in lemon juice or lime juice, put in your rimmer of salt or sugar. Boom. So imagine you have that right there. Now you got your margarita in there. You got your lime in there. Boom. There you go. Put it on. Stop with a napkin. Watch for the first taste. Walk away. Any questions so far? So these are all of your other classic cocktails. I would become familiar with those. I can send this out to you guys so you can see it. I would become familiar with those, understand what pairs what with what. All liquor is not made equal. Some liquor may have more fruit forward to it. Some liquor may be more maple. Understand your liquor, taste liquor a bit more. Any questions so far? Thank you for coming to my first ever bar training. You guys are my first people.
We were?
You were, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just started this week. I had to reschedule for the previous week. So yeah, you're my first.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's going to keep.
Exciting.
Thank you. It's exciting for me
I
too.
think you did great.
Oh my gosh, thank you. So,
You're very energetic.
I love what I do, man. You gotta love what you do. The more you love what you do, the more money you get. And it's very important. When I say fake it, fake it. Because people are so impressed when you come to your job and you like it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I love how you like your job. Because so many people don't. They don't like bartending. They don't get paid for it. And they get mad because they don't get paid. And they don't understand why they don't get paid. It's because they don't like the job.
Right.
So like your job. If you don't, find something that you can fake about it. Find something small and hone in on that. Any questions so far?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys for coming in. I'll keep you notified of any of the next class that I have. Will be more details, and I'll have more papers. Would you guys feel better having more papers in front of you, or how can we make this better for next time? And I'm open to anything.
I'm more of a paper person.
Paper, okay.
Because I'm older.
That's fair.
Yeah, I
That's
was like,
fair.
I'm fine with electronics.
That's fair. Okay, so I have both. So I have the options for everyone. So the next one, I'll have more of the stuff, and then we'll also do a more advanced one, which is talks deeper of more history of all your cocktails and put those cocktails together.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We can pound on that one.
Yeah.
Boom. Thank you
you.
for coming, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank
If you
you.
guys ever, you guys are looking to break into the industry, I do have a little bartending, and I'm always looking for people. I do train more and more. So we do a paid training where you're paid. You also get a Thursday certificate as well, and you can take that with you anywhere you want. So,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you
right.
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much, ladies. You enjoy your evening.
You
too.
Tell your friends about me.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good
Have
night.
a good night.
Thank you. Be safe out there.
You too.